Hello.
All right, John, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna get started real soon. This is being recorded, so it'll be people can watch it if they weren't able to attend. It'll be in our YouTube channel, and we'll be promoting it on our website and our YouTube channel.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Or do you want to wait a few more minutes?
Oh, it's up to you. I'm fine either way.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's 3:01, and then we have Ray.
Hello.
All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I'll do an introduction and then hand it over to you. And then when you're done, Ray is going to take over.
Okay.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Equality High Virtual Resource Fair today, April 8th, 2020. We have our special guest speaker this afternoon, John Stallman, who is a biologist with over 18 years of experience in Hawaiian environments. He has worked both on land and at sea on the open ocean as a marine observer for NOAA fisheries and as a biological technician in remote backcountry areas in Hawaii. Science dominates his upbringing and his formal education, but John's real skill is in the ability to communicate complex information, making it accessible and understandable for any audience. He developed expertise as a science communicator while working as a park ranger for interpretation of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park and as a national history interpreter with Friends of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, as well as with the Pacific Institute, Lyman Museum, and many others. John continues to serve his community in the aftermath of the 2008 LERZ, providing background information and updates on volcanic activities via social media, public lectures, and private educational excursions. John currently volunteers as consultant and curator of information for the fledgling Pahoa Lava Zone Museum. Welcome, John. Take it away.
All right. Thank you, Mars. Appreciate it. So I'm John. Thanks for the introduction. And I was asked to talk about my journey through the eruption 2018 as it relates to my personal journey and the resources involved. And so I put together a little presentation to tell my story. And I'll just try and start there and hopefully not get too carried away. I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet this time. So let me get this PowerPoint presentation going, and I can tell you more about everything. So, is it started?
No, not yet. You're
okay.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, so to explain my journey through 2018, you need to understand kind of where I was starting from, which maybe a lot of people who were there in 2018 didn't really realize that either. So you need to understand I had two jobs at the beginning of the eruption in 2018. There were two tasks, two jobs that I was doing to sustain myself. And the first was that I was a naturalist interpreter. Okay, that's a strange word. Naturalist is a hard word to understand. Interpreter, that's one thing, one job. Okay, so if we break it down, when you say naturalist to people, a lot of times they think I mean that I'm a nudist. And I'm here to tell you that's not what it means. I am not a nudist. A naturalist is somebody who is into nature, as in natural science, natural history, biology, geology, ecology, ethnobotany, regular botany, evolution, any of these things that pertain to the natural environment. And in my case, I specialize in Hawaiian plants, Hawaiian botany, and Hawaiian volcanoes. Been doing this for years, okay? So naturalist, relating to nature, right? Interpreter, though, is a little harder to explain. It's a little bit of a jargon term, but when you hear the word interpreter, most people tend to think of like a translator or a speaker, a communicator, okay? And that's a fair estimation on what an interpreter does. But you might think of like a French translator or somebody who speaks Spanish or communicates by sign language as an interpreter. And it's not that kind of interpretation, okay? So as a naturalist interpreter, I interpret natural things. I am a translator of rocks. I speak plants, and I can communicate with trees. Okay, so that's me. I am a geology translating, botany speaking, science communicating naturalist interpreter. Thank you very much. So at the time of 2018, I had already been doing this for many years. I don't know, 12, 15 years by that time. That's my day job. That's usually how I paid the bills. Luckily, I didn't have very many bills. The other job I had at the beginning of 2018 was dishwasher. And this one's more straightforward. See, as a dishwasher, if there was a dish, I would wash it. I was a dishwasher. So I was washing dishes once or twice a week in the Tin Shack Cafe bakery in downtown Pahoa here. And I did that just to kind of help me pay my taxes, make ends meet, but more because those people were family to me. I had already worked there as a cook a while before, and it was just a way that I could kind of be involved and earn a little cash if my other job, naturalist interpreter, wasn't doing much. So I'm emphasizing this because you don't usually think of a dishwasher as someone who's very knowledgeable about volcanic eruptions or as someone who has a lot of resources to contribute. So when everything took off in 2018 and I became involved in reporting on the eruption, to a lot of people, it was a shock because I was just a dishwasher, okay? And so naturalist, interpreter, dishwasher, that's me, John Stallman. And now I'm going to tell you how it worked in 2018. So we're going to be on lava time for the remainder of my little talk here. So as the eruption started, everything changed and it was like time slowed down and just spread out and spread out for months. So this image, this is Andrew Dunn, Ikaika Marzo's friend, photographing the lava river as it's flowing around Green Mountain down to the coast. Andrew Dunn, I did not know before the eruption, but he became a good friend of mine. He was always there. And so this image just kind of represents this serene, beautiful feeling of witnessing that lava river when by this point in the eruption, there had been so much upheaval. Most all of my friends were evacuated by the first night of the eruption due to gases. And this river, which was hundreds of yards across, was flowing through our world for the next few months. But from the very first, that first night, because of the gases as the fissures open up, my friend was evacuated with one of his friends at my little tiny cottage in the woods, and we're huddling all together. And I was trying to coordinate for friends and people that were bouncing back and forth, evacuated from the eruption or gases, or just trying to figure things out for the remainder of that time. So all of these images and everything I'm sharing, it's like a haze. It's this spread out lapse of time that happened during the eruption because there was so much personal drama and trauma going on as everything was thrown into a tailspin by this lava flow. So those images at the lava river, that was all before I took to the sky in this tiny little plane in the beginning of June so that I could get a view of the lava flow from the air. That's Karsten Peter in the background there. He's a pretty famous photographer with National Geographic and stuff. I'll tell you about him in a minute because he was in the plane with us. And the other person in the plane was my good friend Kavi, I'll tell you more about. So as we got in the air, this is what we saw that morning. This is the massive lava flow from Fissure 8 moving around the corner at Four Corners there around Green Mountain, had already filled in Green Lake, and the flow at this point had spread out a mile wide and was pushing forward through Kapoho into Kapoho Bay. So this is kind of the height, the climax of the destruction during the whole sequence of events during the eruption. And I was in the air to be one of the first people to see this view at this really, really heightened moment in the whole chain of events. Looking the other way, I could look up the flow and see the lava flow coming from Fissure 8. You can see in the haze in the distance there, this apocalyptic landscape. And the amazing thing was that the lava flow, the channel here, you can see had partly drained as the lava finally made it to Green Mountain and Green Lake and spread out. When it hit the flat land, it drained part of the channel. This is kind of an important scientific detail of the dynamics of that lava channel that I was able to witness because I had the chance to be in the air. But the other person in that plane with me was Kavi. And who was Kavi? He's this gentleman standing here. He was someone I did not know before the eruption, but he became a great friend to me. And one of the reasons we were on that flight that morning was to try and determine if Kavi's house had been destroyed by lava already. So this video, this is he and I had gone to the river. This is much later in the eruption, weeks after we took that flight together. And he had lost his house, but you can see he stayed pretty happy. He's a wild guy and a jokester and a trickster. So he became a resource for me by being there and having this positive attitude throughout the eruption. There's looking at this raging spillway on the part of the river we called the fishing hole. We were there just hours after a surge. With a crazy look in his eye there. And so Kavi was my friend throughout the eruption, a confidant, and I'll remember him forever. But we met in this dire circumstance in the hub in Pahoa while he was trying to find more information, just the same as anyone else was, to see if this lava flow had already consumed his house. And indeed it had, okay? Now here's me and Kavi at the very end of the eruption. See him sitting next to me there. And so we were at this banquet at the hub, the Pu'uhonua o Puna, the disaster relief organization that Ikaika Marzo and others set up in Pahoa at the beginning of the eruption. And so at the end of the very beginning of August, we had this thank you benefit for everyone who had helped out. And I remember sitting here with Kavi, and across from me is Philip Ong. We'll talk more about him in a second. And I was thinking, mentioning to both of them, like, isn't this weird? We're having a like thank you benefit and there's still a giant river of lava right across the street. But it ended up being the very few last hours of that eruption before it all ceased. Yeah? So Kavi, I'm submitting to you the story of my relationship, my friendship with Kavi when he lost his house in the lava flow is one of the main types of resources that I found during the eruption. And it was the support of someone I didn't even know before. Total stranger, we were willing to work together and be friends in the circumstance. And it turned out to be a priceless thing for me sustaining myself through that time. But Philip across the table here is someone I already knew. And he's the one who plugged me into all of this because he knew me in the past, knew that I was a naturalist interpreter. He connected me with Ikaika Marzo. And Ikaika was another person I had no idea of, had never met him before, but he became one of the greatest resources for me throughout the eruption by forming the Pu'uhonua o Puna, the disaster relief organization, the hub, where we were able to help a lot of people with their disaster needs and also with information, which is where I came in at that time. So in this photo, my favorite image of the eruption taken by Brad Lewis, another famous photographer, I was able to meet Ikaika about the night before, right after our flight. And then he wasn't the one able to get me in to see the lava fountain at Fissure 8, which in this image was spraying about 250 feet high. And so we met out there. We had different passes to get into the area and happened to be able to conjoin in the middle of it all. And as this fountain was continuing to go, that giant lava flow from Fissure 8 was just beginning to spread out and work its way down that path to Kapoho on the other side of all of this. Yeah? So Ikaika gave me everything I needed. Remember, I was just a dishwasher. I didn't even have a cell phone service, not much internet signal at my house, but having the hub as the resource to go where I could get the connectivity to stay informed and stay involved was the platform that I'm forever indebted to during the eruption. It gave me everything because Ikaika created that platform for all of us. But like I said, he didn't get me into Leilani. That was the effort of G. Brad Lewis, Volcano Man right next to me in this image. And there's how I met Karsten Peter. Fun place to meet people while you're watching 250-foot lava fountain destroying a huge neighborhood. But the energy and the support, the sort of brotherhood they instantly felt with these gentlemen, and the support that they gave me, that camaraderie when I didn't really know anyone, in the situation of the hub was again, just really priceless to me getting through all this. So about the time that that lava flow was spreading out and those pictures were being taken, one of the resources I had, one of the ways I could help people was I went and grabbed this map, this paper map from the town meeting in Pahoa from USGS was at the town meeting. And you can see on May 3rd, May 28th at 3 p.m., they published this map and they were already updating it by hand because the flow was spreading out and it wasn't certain which way it would go. And this was my contribution. I took that map and each day on the table at the hub, I would update it by hand from the information on the updated flow maps from the internet every single day as it inched its way in this massive flow, made its way around Green Mountain and into Kapoho. At the very end there, as it spread out here, and because I had witnessed the dynamic from the air, I gave a warning that this lobe was going to push forward into vacation land. So we had this 1-2 punch as these two lobes of the flow took out Kapoho and entered the bay and pushed through the tide pools here. And all of that was because of the chance to be in an airplane and all of this. But you see, all I had access to was an internet signal that I could get the updates from USGS online and translate them onto this paper map and use that as a way to inform people about what was going on during the eruption. I didn't have a lot of other resources during the eruption other than that. But for the people who knew me as a dishwasher, and I was suddenly hopping into an airplane with Carson Peters and reporting about the eruption online, it was like, how is he doing this? So I took the air with Carson Peters, saw this tragic scene unfolding. Here's the photograph Carson wishes he got. He wasn't able to get this photograph. In Green Crater, one of the craters was being filled by the lava flow that morning while we were up, and there was this impressive fall of lava pouring into it that some of the other photographers in the air got. But we kept cruising across the lava flow with Kavi and me and Carson Peters and the pilot Scott Wilson, who flew us and so many others over the eruption. And the thermals from the heat of the lava were whipping the plane around and they're arguing, we can't go back there. And it was the most exciting time of my life. It was incredible and awful and stressful, because remember, somewhere in this exact image was Kavi's house, which had probably already been burnt by the lava. So as if I was having a lot of stress with the people I was dealing with in my own life, imagine how Kavi felt when we were taking that flight and he still didn't know if his house was under the lava. So before we took that flight, while we were in the hub, I was drawing out these lines on the map each day. And oh, let me go back. And as I got to about the bend in the road here in the center, it's not letting me point with my cursor. I drew the red line a little further that day, and Kavi was sitting right next to me and he said, "Hey, thank you." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about? Thank you." And he said, "You just drew that red line right through my house." Because he had been studying this map very carefully. He understood that although the houses are not on this map, it was a very precise map, and I was doing it very carefully. And he could tell for the first time, after looking at all these other maps and things that people were trying to do, he could see on my map, if the lava was where I drew it, it had taken his house. But I just looked up at him and I was like astonished. I'm like, "What do you mean? I just drew that through your house." I didn't realize his house was in the path of the lava. I had met him at the hub like so many people were meeting, and I didn't know his situation. I thought he was there to help out. I thought he was there because he wanted the information or because he thought it was interesting, and he was just an interesting guy. And so it was only when I was actually drawing this map right in front of him that I realized his situation and how serious it was. And that affected how I interpreted our relationship, our friendship differently, I guess, after that. But the lava flow marched on into the bay, and you can see this overlay of the thermal image from USGS showing the white hot path of the lava and where it spread out, and the two lobes entered the bay and took out vacation land in that 1-2 punch. And I was talking with the landowners, everybody in that neighborhood every day at the hub as this unfolded. But these thermal images online were one of the most precious resources I had to look at the dynamics of the flow throughout the eruption, just checking them off the USGS website. The thermal image was an amazing tool to have access to. And that lava flow continued to flow for about 2 more months after it reached the sea. There's Ikaipa Marzo. And he's with another friend of ours who gave us access to the edge of the lava because they owned that private property that was inundated. And that's how we got in. If I didn't have the network of Ikaika, I never would have seen these things, never would have witnessed any of this in my life. But why was I here? I was a dishwasher. Why did Ikaika bring me to be the guy helping report to everybody in the community about this? And that had everything to do with Philip Ong, and Philip Ong knew that I was a ranger. That's how I got to be an interpreter. As a ranger, interpretive ranger at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. I was Ranger John long before Ikaika told me so. And Philip knew about my history and knew that better than I did, that an interpreter was needed during the disaster more than at any other time. And so I'll be forever indebted to Philip for inviting me in and providing me with the resource of the platform of becoming involved with him and Ikaika at the Pu'uhonua Puna. So yeah, I was a ranger for years, and that's a big part of my identity, but it wasn't all of my identity. I have a wild side. I'm kind of a pyro. Over the years, though, I got more respect for fire. And so by the time the 2018 eruption came and all of this chaos, I understood so much of what was going on. This was all familiar territory for me, although nobody could have expected such a disaster, right? And the people I was meeting, it was like we were kindred spirits. Like we both understood the lava flow. These guys had lots of experience with other eruptions. So we had plenty to talk about. And it seemed like I just fit right in, like we were family. And I had never met these people before. But Brad got a big kick out of being the one to show me my first lava fountain. And I'll never forget these people. I'll also never forget Philip Ong and Sam Choi. Met Sam Choi. This is how I met Sam Choi. I'm a better cook now, I'm sure of it. Things that never would have happened to me if I didn't get the support of the hub and my whole community. I got to do more airplane rides. It's me and another airplane ride with Scott Wilson to check out the flow. There's me and Philip Ong and Dane DuPont from Hawaii Tracker. And by that point in the eruption, you know, we had interacted some. Dane was doing more of the maps that help people locate their properties and their houses. So very different than the lava flow map agenda that I had, writing it on tables at the hub. But we took a flight and we were coordinating by that time. And other than Philip, I had no association with any of these people before. But that's the major resource, being able to work together because of the circumstances. And it's kind of a beautiful moment. I got to be in the paper a bunch of times. This is the photo that they took interviewing me at the hub. And it's a funny photo. I remember Lisa Williams, and it's kind of embarrassing. Like, could this be any more excited and happy in this picture? And we're in the middle of a lava flow, and they're like laughing or like, "Oh, John, you make learning about lava flow so much fun." It's like, and you can see I'm holding my cell phone charger. I need to charge my cell phone every day when I got to the hub because I had trouble keeping my own electric going at home. I'm on solar with people evacuated at my house. The hub was the only place to charge my phone. But one thing I'm embarrassed about this photo, not only the insanely excited expression on my face, but look at the moment on the map where I was drawing. By Green Mountain there, that is the exact day, the afternoon, that flow was spreading out and consuming all of Kapoho and vacation land. So again, in the middle of that tragedy, and every day, each day that I was doing this at the hub, drawing on the map, I was having constantly evacuees and property owners coming up to talk to me to get more information about the volcano. And I was ready for this. Okay, this is like everything that I've done for 10 or 15 years was this type of educating people, making it fun, associating it with things they know so that they can understand what's going on. And it was like the busiest day at the visitor center at the national park, but with the added stress of this was a disaster. People were losing their houses. But for me, it was like I was born for this. It was like I had trained for this for years. And the eruption was still going. Unfortunately, though, I was in Alaska. So in the middle of the eruption, I got up and left to Alaska. This picture of Matanuska Glacier. See, I had to take some kids hiking on this glacier. I would have liked to hike further. They wanted ice climb. So we're ice climbing in Alaska in the middle of the eruption. And this was a little stressful in itself because I wanted to be more involved in the eruption. So I was getting messages from Phil, talking to people online, answering questions every day when I was supposed to be a naturalist interpreter for this group of kids. So this is who we were traveling through Alaska and Hawaii. This is something I had to do, prearranged trip. I had a job. I'm a naturalist interpreter. So these were brilliant kids, our 13 students from Shanghai were traveling Alaska, Hawaii that summer. And so I took a break from the eruption to travel with them and had 3 other brilliant teachers with them. And it was an amazing trip. And they were brilliant kids, all spoke perfect English, but I was always preoccupied with the eruption. I was still on lava time. I was constantly updating and involved in what was going on back in Hawaii. And I feel bad that I hadn't been more present for these kids that entire time. So the look on their face just reminds me, sometimes they'd kind of come up to me and be like, oh, you have lava flow problems again today? I'm like, yeah, I do. And they're like, oh, well, maybe it'll be better tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, it might be. And then they're like, are we going to be able to see the eruption? I'm like, yeah, you probably will, because we were headed to Hawaii next and arranging for them to take a helicopter flight so they would see the lava. And they were like really excited about that, but they felt bad for me because I was obviously always stressed out about the lava. But they were brilliant kids, and it was an amazing adventure because Alaska has its own geology and its own beauty. But each day I was talking with Dane DuPont about the collapsing crater. I was watching every one of Philip Ong's videos to keep track of what was being taught and said to the community online through the hub. And in all the landscapes of Hawaii, of Alaska, I was seeing the lava anyway, like in this braided river. Glacial rivers move and move. Dynamics of a glacial river, these braided rivers, is very, very similar to our lava flow and the dynamic of how they might be moving. And so everywhere I turned in Alaska, I was still seeing the lava instead of where I was at. Here's the other aspect of being in Alaska is that it doesn't get dark. So we had long days and I would stay up to get more information about Hawaii. So it was kind of an insomniac time. So this image is late at night. We had a teacher's night out, went to a bar, and there was a competition about national park trivia, and we won because I'm a ranger. But walking home, it was like I could see the lava and the sunset, and just thinking about that raging river that was going on at home the whole time. So I didn't rust much in Alaska, but it gave me time to reflect on where I've been in Hawaii. I'll try and wrap this up because I'm about the time I wanted to be. So this is what I did after I finished being a ranger. This is me in my charmed life, walking down the avenue of royal palms at the farm I was managing for a couple of years in Pohoiki. And it was an amazing life, but it wasn't meant to be. I had to walk away from it all. There were problems with the owner at that time. And it was one of the hardest things I did to leave this whole opportunity, leave that property and do something else. And it was a major setback for me. And that was a few years before the lava came. And today, these palm trees are buried almost up to the top in lava from fissure 16 and fissure 20. So this property was just a few blocks away from the lava. So as I recap my life while I was in Alaska, I realized everything happens for a reason. If I had still been at that property, I would have been even more stressed out and involved in a bad situation. And then the lava flow would have come and taken it away. So it just gave me an understanding that everything, every different moment of my life, right down to how I ended up washing dishes, made sense. And there was a reason for those things. So it was while I was kind of recapping this, I started to let things go and heal from all the drama in Hawaii. Here's that image I got from one of the airplane flights. Downwind of that lava river was all death from the gases. Everything died. Here's my friend's house, the bromeliad withering in the fumes from fissure 8. A few days later, it was completely bleached white. And that was everything in the world, all my friends' houses, all their lives, everything downwind of that river was just death and destruction. And that was kind of what I was juggling the entire time. Evacuated friends, traumatized friends who were depressed or stressed out, and juggling all of that while I was trying to be this communicator of science for the community at the same time. This is an image of a palm tree, a native palm tree I had planted in that death zone. And a friend sent me this image halfway through the eruption because the native palm was adapted to the sulfur and it was unscathed. Everything else around it had died, but this was still thriving. And this was an amazing image of resilience for me. It meant a lot to me when he sent me this because it was like, yeah, I planted that tree because I knew it was a good one. And it just gave me that self-assurance. And it was also a signal that so many of these people I was involved with were reaching out to me and trying to support me because they could see the stress that I was taking on. So I guess in Alaska is when I emotionally processed the eruption. And by the time the warm palms were taken away is when I finally could just kind of emotionally let go of the stress of this time and let all that flow into the sea. So this is an image of the lava entering the ocean from one of my boat rides with the kaika. And so emotionally, I had let a lot of that go. By the time I got back to Hawaii, we gave these kids their helicopter ride to see the lava flow, and they were asking, where's the lava? I thought it was going to be hot, because at that point, the lava flow was sometimes crusted over, especially between surges, so they didn't get the view they always wanted, but we had a good trip anyway. And then it became time for that farewell thank you dinner with Kavi and Philip Ong. And as history would show, the last collapse of the summit crater happened earlier the day that they took this photo of us. And we wouldn't know that until later. It was about to end. So it was appropriate. Ikaika gave me and Phil a big thank you. And it was super meaningful, deep. In my whole life, that thank you was just one of my best achievements ever. But he had already thanked me before I even went to Alaska. So just great people held me up. After the eruption, I met even more people. Harry Durgan took this amazing time-lapse video showing the reactivation of Fissure 8 that happened in the beginning of September. The lava flow did not resume. I did several talks with Harry Durgan afterward in Pahoa, Kona, and Hilo about the eruption, married with his amazing photography of the whole series of events, amazing programs to reach out to the community. I got really into photography myself in the past couple of years, got to take more airplane flights with Scott Wilson, a helicopter ride with Bruce Amori and Nick Calvert, all people I never would have known if I didn't get this platform, the support from the hub during the eruption. This is the water lake that was in the crater in 2019. Got into the photography as they erupted again in 2020, and now continuing to erupt in the crater today. But I guess that the lasting thing from the eruption, and there's my map on the back wall, is my involvement in the Pahoa Lava Zone Museum, which is a resource for us all, still just gaining momentum. At the end of the eruption, the National Park Service loaned out all of these old displays from the Jagger Museum, which was heavily damaged in the earthquakes inside the national park. And that was the nucleus for having these displays from the museum to create our own lava zone museum in Pahoa. And since the eruption beginning early on, we were teaching school groups in there. We have volunteer docents. We do all kinds of different programs in there, and they're open daily. And this is kind of the legacy. The Lava Zone Museum was formed with multifaceted goal of helping encourage sustainable tourism through Pahoa and this whole region of Puna in the aftermath of the eruption, as well as being a resource for everybody who was here during the eruption. All of our docents, most of them were eyewitness accounts of it, so it's a talk story place. The museum wants to collect video interviews so everyone can share their personal experiences of 2018 and educate the people about the fact that we're one of the only communities in the world that's living on top of the active rift, right? So the Pahoa Lava Zone Museum can do a lot of good for the community. It's continuing to grow. You can see them in Pahoa right next to Koleo's, open daily, 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And I'm continuing to be a curator and being involved with them in that. So without getting too far in the weeds, I guess I just want to say, you know, this Lava Zone Museum has been a way for me to continue to kind of coordinate with my larger community and continue to collect and maintain that kind of community effort that supported me during the eruption. recognized that I had a role to play during all that as an educator. So the museum has been a way for me to continue that. And hopefully it can help us all continue to understand the biggest resource that I think any of us had during the eruption was the ability to coordinate and work together with people we didn't even know we would end up being so close to in our community all along. So without stammering too much further, I just want to thank you, anybody who joined in, anybody watching this later. And if there are any questions, I can answer those now. And hopefully you'll join us online or in person at Pahoa Lava Zone Museum in the future. Mahalo.
All right, thank you, John. If anyone has any questions for John, you feel free to unmute yourself and speak up or put it on the chat. And Ray is going to take over the end of our event today. Okay. All right, so John, I really want to personally thank you for being our guest today. I'm a little emotional because I lived in Leilani Estates. So thank you for that. Yep. Take it away, Ray.
Sounds good, Mark. Thank you so much. So if there are no questions for John at this point, then I do want to say on behalf of Equality High, thank you so much for everybody who made this event possible today. We have come to the end of our virtual resource fair for 2022. There are so many people to thank and so many hands that made this possible. So to all of the speakers and the presenters today, much mahalo. To our exhibitors who put up together some wonderful booths and information, thank you. To our special guest, Council Member Ashley, and a special thank you to the Hawaii Community Foundation for helping make this possible. And of course, everyone who attended and participated in today's event, thank you. For more information about Equality High, you can visit our website at www.equalityhigh.org. And hopefully that all the information provided today benefits you in some way or someone you know. So on behalf of Equality High, thank you, and we will see you next time. Mahalo.